I look at it very much like the analogy I use is that there's this big mathematic algebra equation with all these variables, and we've got, the company, the culture, their vision, their mission, the specific position, and within each of those things there's all these little company and an X, and the vision and a Y, and the position itself is its own XYZ little calculation. And then you've got your job seeker, and each of the roles in their career is like a piece of their equation with a variable in terms of like, why did you join? Why did you leave? What did you accomplish? And ultimately, like, our job as this like matchmaker is to like solve both of those equations and work with our clients when they give us a job order to really uncover all the variables and all those tangibles and intangibles that are going to ultimately result in like somebody being successful. And again, I don't know if I shared, but I always talk about the three pillars for us of a successful hire, which is what you do on the front end, what you do on the back when, like in terms of, onboarding, training, coaching, and then the intangible of the candidate, and, using DISC assessments or Myers-Briggs, and using different coaching styles, and having, having these, people like you on the team for inclusion and stuff like that, right? Like, these are all things that companies can do to shift those variables. And again, if you don't like understand that those variables exist, and that as a job seeker, you need to try to uncover them the best as you can, whether it's through your interviews, through doing research of their website, of the people on their company's LinkedIn pages. Like, there's so much information in this day that you can gather that job seekers don't put the time, effort, or energy into, never mind understanding their own like path and how those things tie in. And again, like you said, understanding the whole big picture. Like, again, if we look at $100,000 a year guy and look at 6 months, there's a hard cost of $50,000. But then you got CPP, EI, WCB, government burden, so we're probably talking about $60,000. Then you've got, no matter how skilled and experienced that person is, there's the training, the onboarding, the coaching. That stuff still needs to happen to get that person immersed into the business, and someone needs to do that. So now there's like a secondary investment of somebody else, and maybe it's multiple people. So take that like hard cost of that time investing, and then take the soft like opportunity cost of, say, someone like myself, where my greatest strength in our business is business development, client management, and generating like big picture revenue for our business, and take my time and apply it into like coaching and training somebody. And although that time is like great and well spent and important for our team, it's also potentially taking thousands of dollars away from the bottom line. And so you take that $50,000 or $60,000 like hard cost investment in those first 6 months, you can easily turn that into a $200,000 like bottom line investment, and then multiply it by 2 or 3 if that person doesn't work out, because of having to go back and then re-recruit, and the cost of turnover, and if they damage relationships or whatever. Like, the cost to bringing an employee on is so much greater than it ever was, which is why there's even a greater emphasis from businesses to make sure that they really get it right, which makes it a harder process for the job seeker, which can be demoralizing and frustrating. And again, it is a hard process, and it's not one that you're like a pro at. You either need to get really educated on it really quickly. And the benefit to everybody is that whether it's, YouTube, Google, there are so many resources out there. And then, as I mentioned, whether it's, Clark, like I mentioned, with, I think his company's called My Practice Interview, or like other companies, like, there are so many resources out there. Unfortunately, a lot of them you have to pay for. And I think a lot of job seekers just, in the nicest way possible, and I've been there, you almost have this like, I don't know if it's a sense of entitlement or something, and I don't want that to come across as a negative way, but you almost go, it shouldn't be this hard. And the reality is it is. And so now it's your responsibility to solve that problem until it becomes like the government's problem. Until it's the government's problem and it's the government's job to spoon feed you that stuff. And even then, it's still your problem. Like, it's always going to be your job to separate yourself from the pack and invest in yourself and put yourself in that position.
Well, let's be honest. How can we ask a company to invest in you if you haven't already shown them that you're willing to invest in yourself?
Yeah.
And that's the key piece, right? And I was speaking to an acquaintance of mine who, has suffered a fairly serious disability, and he had some of the same concerns as Randy had. And he said, Jordan, like, the job market is unfair, and I have all these, different views and obstacles I have to overcome. And I said some simple things. I said, okay, I said, but did you do everything that is completely within your power? I said, did you come prepared? Did you ensure that you were properly groomed, properly dressed, and ready for your interview? Did you show up on time? Did you reach out prior to say, hey, I'm coming in, I have a wheelchair, is it accessible? How can I get here? And show them that you are truly thoughtful and have a desire for working there. And he's like, well, no. I said, then why would they hire you?
Yeah.
I go, are they supposed to look at you and go, hey, you're in a wheelchair, and we haven't hired anyone in a wheelchair this year. We talk about how we're inclusive, so maybe we better consider. No, they shouldn't. They should look at you and say, you did not come prepared, and you did not show us that you are willing to invest equally in this process with us to create success for both as one unit. I go, you can't ask them to do all your work. And it was a great conversation, because he was like, no, I didn't do that. And you're right. I probably wouldn't have hired me if I was them either. Okay, fix it. I'm like, everything that you face, you have the ability to change and control.
Yeah.
So take that control, make those changes, and be willing to evolve as you go through the process. And if you don't get a successful outcome, then look into why and build from there. I go, the goal is, at the end of it, is to remove the number of whys related to why it didn't happen and create additional whys as to why it did.